And come on, let's go.
Hi, Bill.
And Dave Weineman, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. I hope you are too.
Okay, we're live on YouTube. I'm sorry, okay, just let me do a quick intro here and then we'll do some chit chat. Bill Gross, I am the LAProbate and welcome to our Tuesday real estate investing zoom.com. Every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we get together, experienced investors like Dave Weineman, brand new investors or wannabe investors. Get together and we share ideas, systems, strategies, vendors. We bring in some VIPs sometimes to help us be more successful in our business. Just before we start, just one quick idea I want to give you guys, actually two ideas. One is just overall, can I just say, if I haven't said it yet, I've been in real estate since 1986. There has never been a better time to make more income or build wealth in real estate than right now, in my professional opinion. People say oftentimes, well, who do you say that? Well, I'm a professional in real estate, and I've done a lot in real estate. Here's what I'm going to tell you. There has never been more opportunity. There has never been more money floating around ever than right now. Whether you're an experienced agent trying to leverage your experience in past business, or you're a new agent trying to get started, or like I was a couple years ago to relaunch a business, experienced agent, there's never been more deals. While there might be a shortage of inventory, air quotes, because that's a fake. I did a video on that the other day. There's no shortage of inventory. There's an inventory, there's a house for every buyer that's closed. Every single one got a house. There's no shortage. There's a shortage of mindset. There's people whose mindsets aren't straight. I'll tell you that for sure. There has never been more opportunities, never been more uncertainty, which is we trade on that. Never been more problems. Some problems is how we get paid. And there has never been as much money sloshing around the world as there is right now. If you have no money, this is the chance of your lifetime. I believe some of you will look back 20 years from now and say, man, in 2021, it was unbelievably life-changing. And either you're going to say you took advantage of it or you didn't. Another thing I'll say to you is there's never been a chance for new people to learn. Because of COVID, all the live events got shut down and all the people who have real value to add have to give away more and more for free on the internet. You know, I've recommended several of Grant Cardone's programs. His 10X book, audio version, is on YouTube for free. You don't have to buy it. I have a couple copies. I'd be glad to give it to you, but it's free. There you go, Annabelle. It's free. Now, Annabelle and I are also paying money and going to Florida and hiring their coaches and paying being in programs to get more because that's not enough. But just today, I walked this morning for exercise, listened to an hour of the audiobook for free, drove back from my swim practice, a little bit of traffic, put on the 10X book for free. There is no limit to your learning today. 5 years ago, you couldn't get that kind of coaching without paying a lot of money. It's there for you. So if you don't know where to find it, call me, text me, email me. But this is the chance of your lifetime. For those of you who said, when am I ever going to get a break? This is it. Take advantage of it. Now, each week I do try to cover one of the systems of a selling system. And last week I went over real quick, number one, goal setting. Number two, this week I just want to mention and pass because we have a guest this week. I won't take up too long. I also want our attendees to pile in before we get started because he's got some really good stuff. But point two, number one is goal setting. And number two is a business plan. What's the difference? The goal is the destination. The plan is what you do daily to execute to get there. Right? So you can have a goal of a certain amount of money, enough to retire on, enough to live the life you want. You can have a goal to build some kind of business, but what you do every day to execute that, to make that happen, that's a business plan. And so one of the challenges when COVID changed businesses is what we were doing every day couldn't be done anymore. For me, I went to court every day for 3 hours, couldn't do that. and took people, my goal was to take people to lunch every day. Couldn't really do that. I mean, I kind of could have. I'm just saying it's not the same. So I restructured my business. That's why I did this call, right? I changed my business plan, not the goal. The goal is to build a huge business. My goal is to build a huge nationwide business of real estate professionals, salespeople, wholesalers, agents. The plan was the business plan was going to court, was going to lunch to meet people. Now I host 2 Zoom calls a week and build my tribe that way. Different plan to be executed. So in a sales system, you have to have a goal, number one, and point 2 is you have to have a business plan. And there's a right business plan for every business. Now I come from the real estate sales business and or the recruiting, building a team business. I can help you with either one of those 2 plans. In truth, I've never built a wholesale plan or an investor plan. I'm familiar with the concepts. I've read some books. I have customers who are investors and wholesalers. I've done some wholesaling. This year I made over $100,000 wholesaling. I'm all for it. I don't do it every day. It's not really the business I'm looking to build. But towards that, so that's number 2, is you have to have a business plan. And by coincidence today, we have on our call a guy who's a great friend of mine, who was my first probate real estate coach. First guy taught me about probate real estate. A great resource and partner in my business. He's a title rep that gives me great help in terms of transactions and solving technical title issues. And it's just a great guy to know is Kevin Sales. Now, last time I had him on, I had a great introduction and I messed up his last name because there's another Kevin that I know that I was using his name instead. So Kevin, I know he's out in his car today. We called Kevin, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
How you doing?
Unfortunately, I had an emergency I had to go handle. And so I'm in my car. I couldn't miss this. So I said, I'll stop, do it from the car. But if you hear traffic or car accidents, it's just because I'm out and about here in Long Beach right now.
Okay. Well, one of the things about Kevin, if you know, as a partner in my business, he's committed to my business. So I appreciate that. So I know that a lot of people know you as having taught probate real estate, and you have a book on probate sales and you have a coaching program. But the other part, the reason I invited you today was to talk specifically about how wholesaling and investing.
Yeah. Wholesaling became real popular right after the last mortgage meltdown. I mean, wholesaling's always been around, but I think it really had a boom during that short sale boom. And in that, there's a lot of challenges in wholesaling. And I remember the first thing I did, I've always been about, a guy told me when I first started Untitled, he said, if you help people get more business and help them close their deals, you'll always have business. And so I've always thought that way. I thought it was going to be like a flyer, 11 ways to close a wholesale deal. When you can't change the buyer's name, when you can't actually assign it, or you don't have an assignable contract and that sort of thing. And this bloomed, and as time went on, more and more techniques came about. And next thing you know, I had, over 20 some odd ways. And when I sat down and wrote the detail on the material, it became a book. So it became the book that I wrote about that. But what I do on a daily basis as a title company is I help investors that, sometimes it's easy, right? You write an assignable contract and you just assign it and it's done. It's simple and easy. But sometimes you have a situation where you're in a contract that's not assignable, or you have a situation where it's an REO and the bank won't let you change anything, or you can't add your business partner who's helping you close and that sort of thing. And so I help people understand different ways to get their transaction to close and make the deal happen.
So, and you have a book at Amazon. I'm sharing the book cover right now. If anybody's interested, The Wholesaler's Guide to Real Estate Deals. I'm really lucky as a Kevin Sales customer. I got both books. I don't do enough business to get signed copies. I got just the unsigned copies. Maybe if you give Kevin enough business, he'll sign a copy for you or pay extra or something. I don't know how that works.
Our friendship alone is worth the signature. So the next time I see you, I will definitely sign your copies, because that alone is worth the signatures.
Okay, I'll slip you a $5 or something if I have to. So great, thank you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about first for somebody who's beginning. If somebody who's starting in wholesaling or wanting to get into making money in real estate, where should they start?
Well, the hardest part about any deal is getting the deal, right? So, they usually start with picking a type of lead they're going to go after, whether it's foreclosure or whatever, foreclosure leads or something like that. And then they start marketing to those guys. Where the rubber meets the road and we get involved is when they're ready to open escrow. So when they have that signed contract. And when I'm fortunate enough to talk to an investor before they sign their first contract, I tell them, make sure you write an assignable contract. Make sure there's something in there that says your name or assignee, and that there's a box in there that says this is assignable. I know you have folks nationwide, Bill, that come on these calls. I had a contract in Florida last year, and I was the buyer. I bought a property in Florida, and their Florida Association of Realtors contract has 3 different ways it's written. 1, not assignable. 2, it's assignable, but the original offeror still maintains all responsibility, even if it's assigned. Or 3, you assign it, that original offeror is completely out of the picture. The assignee is 100% responsible for making sure it closes. So it's widely done, but some people are against it or afraid of it because they don't, most of the time the seller just wants to make sure they have a deal that's going to close. But if you're dealing with the average,
I think we lost you. Kevin, I think we lost you. Let's do this. Why don't you hang up and come back in again, if you would. I'm sure Kevin's making a great point right now, you guys. Okay, Kevin, I don't know if you can hear me. Why don't you try to come back in? Just try a new connection. I think we lost you. Okay. So Sherry, let me ask a question real quick while we're waiting for you to come back. We have a number of people who are real estate agents on the call. Who here as a realtor has done an assignable contract before? Anybody? Paul has. I have. Anybody else? It's not that common. I shouldn't back up. I've commonly done assignable contracts where investors buy property, they have multiple LLCs, and their plan is to sign it into one of the LLCs once they get the contract kind of finalized, right? There are assignable contracts, when a wholesaler does it, they have nobody in mind to buy the property. They don't know if they can close or not. That's the difference between knowing you're going to buy a property up front, or I just want to get it under contract and then see if I can sell the property. See, there's Kevin coming back in. Let's see if we can get her. Hey, Kevin. You there? No. Kevin's iPhone is there, but he's muted. Kevin, if you're there.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay,
There
great.
we go.
I don't know what happened. Sorry about that, but I don't know what happened, but at least I'm back.
Okay. So where were we? So I was talking about where should somebody start if they want to get into real estate, they want to make money. I know you're talking a little bit about finding the deals, just to tee you back up again. So where should somebody start if they want to get into real estate investing? They don't have much money, but they want to make some income, or they want to generate some wealth.
Okay, so you lost me. You didn't catch that whole thing that I said there?
No, I knew it was really good too. I told everybody how good it was.
So good. It was so good, man. I don't know if I can duplicate it. No, what I was saying is, most people start by picking a type of leads, a type of distressed property they want to go after, whether it's tax sales or people that are in foreclosure or whatever the case may be. Most new investors that I work with or talk to, they start by picking a type of distressed property they go after, and then they go out and door knock or send mailers or make calls or use bandit signs or find bird dogs to find deals for them. But where the rubber starts to meet the road is when they get their contract signed. And the tip I give all the investors that I know are going to come back to me and want to do title and or escrow is I tell them, hey, write an assignable contract. If you write a contract that says your name or assignee or has assignable in there in some way, shape, or form, it makes that, it takes away 90% of your problems.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's huge.
Now, do you do, I'd be careful here because you hear it in your capacity as an author. Can I ask you questions about title and escrow, or should we just keep it in your capacity as an author today?
Title and escrow related, we're good. Yeah.
Okay. That was for the California Insurance Department's benefit.
Yeah.
Do you do double closes?
Yes. And so I'll say yes, but there's a caveat there. What gets people in trouble, what there's been lawsuits that give people a lot of problems are if you have party A is the seller, party B is the investor that finds the deal, and party C is the end user, the one who ends up ultimately owning the property. To say it best, the original title for my book was going to be 20 better ways to close than a double escrow. Because if you want to do a double escrow where you use party C's money to close the transaction between party A and party B, and also the deal between party B and party C, that ends up being a problem. And when the original seller comes back later and wants to file a lawsuit, it really does not look good for that investor because you didn't bring anything to the table. So I ended up changing the name of the book because of the, double escrow is kind of a taboo term. And in some states, there may not be a problem, but here in California, there have been very problematic lawsuits and very big problems because of that. We have a California Homeowners Bill of Rights. We have a couple different laws that affect what happens when a person is in default, which is a generic term, which covers a lot of things. It changes what you have to have in your contract and everything. And so the bottom line with all that is there's different ways to do it. The assignment is the best way, an assignable contract, because in escrow, we have an escrow instruction showing we're changing the buyer. That's really it. An assignment where you assign, I'm the buyer, I've written an offer, I'm buying this property, and I have the right to assign. The right that I have in the contract is to buy the property. I have the right to assign that to some other person. That is a commonly understood principle. In fact, the entire futures market, Chicago Board of Trade or wherever they trade now that there's internet, I don't know where they trade, but it used to be the Chicago Board where they traded futures and options. All of those markets are based on that principle that the contract gives me the right to buy this property for a set price, and I can sell that right to someone else for a higher price.
Right.
So that is the best way to close, but it's not always an option. If it was always an option, there would have been no need for me to write that book that I wrote. But since sometimes you don't have an assignable contract, there are reasons to have to close in different ways.
So as an agent, when I've done assignment contracts, I've done my best that I can. One thing I recommend is representing the buyer, not the seller. Because I don't know how you would possibly, without disclosing to the seller that, well, this guy's buying it, but he's going to turn around right away and flip it to somebody else for more money. Now, if the seller's okay with that, you disclose it, that's one thing. But I just much rather not represent the seller, just represent the buyer. And what my client does with the property is really his business. So you have the choice, and you be careful. In CAR, California Association of Realtors, there's a form that you give to the seller saying, I'm an agent on the deal and I'm preparing the paperwork and all this stuff, but I'm not representing you. And you need to go and get your own representation, whatever that means to you as your business. So I say to agents, we have some great tools in our toolbox called the CR forms. You should read them. And the seller representation form is a great form. Another one is the assignment form. You mentioned, Kevin, what they have in Florida. We have the same thing in California. Most agents don't know that we have an addendum for assignment of contract. And you can check any of several boxes to assign it, keep liability, assign it, waive liability. You can do it either way. And that's all lined out in the addendum. So
Kevin or Bill, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I know in some parts of the country, because I'm doing business in Missouri, and we had a whole big meeting on this, that there's a growing feeling, I don't know at what point this is law and isn't law yet or ever, I don't know where it is in the process, but that if you're writing an assignable contract, if you do not have yourself the capacity to have closed that transaction, there's a move to make that assignability illegal.
Sure.
Or against the law.
Ability and intent, both. Right? I think people have the ability. There are people who sign a contract with no intent to ever close. And to me, by definition, that seems deceptive. right? If there's no
That's
way
correct.
I'm ever gonna buy your property, but I'm buying your property in a contract that looks like I'm going to, I think I need to tell you I'm gonna sign it. Uh, and if I tell you that and you're okay with it, fine. But I think not to. I think that's a political movement that's been underway for a while, but I don't think there's any here in California. There's no current limitation. You just run the risk of being sued by an unhappy seller. One thing my father taught me years ago was anybody can sue anybody for anything.
That's right.
Well, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an interesting point because if, how do you prove it's to me, in my opinion, it's easy for a buyer to say, I thought I was going to be able to get this loan. I applied for the loan. Here's proof that I applied, and I tried, but I was turned down. So I wasn't able to buy, so that's a thing that is a fallback for a lot of folks, is that they can, people use that in their contracts all the time. I'm going to do my inspections. My loan contingency is my way out. People use that a lot in contracts, that their loan contingency is their way out of the contract if they decide they don't want it or whatever. They use their inspection contingency, they use their appraisal contingency, they use their loan contingency. So I was in escrow a week ago. As of this weekend that just passed, I am no longer in escrow because of the loan contingency. We had passed the inspections, we had passed the appraisal. They did not get qualified for their loan. We were on the last day of their loan contingency, and they couldn't get the loan done. So that is, but I think it stems from the fact that people enter contracts that they have no way, like you said, no way of closing and maybe no intent of closing, and it causes delays, and it's a little bit problematic. So it's going to be interesting to see how how the law takes shape and form around that.
Here in Southern California, what do you find is the most commonly successful method for a new wholesale investor to find some deals they can make some money on?
It runs a wide gambit. Everything from probate to defaulted mortgages to tax sale properties. I can't say I see over and over one thing. I usually see some I'll say a category: distressed property. That the people that are going hard after distressed property, those are usually the ones that find transactions. And a lot of times they come to me because they know on the escrow and title side, we know how to deal with that distressed property, whether it's a probate case or a conservatorship case or a lawsuit going on, or a default, whatever those challenges are. They create different challenges in your escrow. They create different challenges sometimes on your title policy and how title is going to close, and they know we have the ability to deal with those things.
Good. So distressed properties. So imagine I'm brand new in real estate, and I want to make some money. I don't have a license. Let's just pretend for sake of discussion. And I need to make some money right away in real estate. Where would you recommend I go? What steps should I take? What would a business look like for me, on a daily basis? If this is my full-time way of generating some revenue.
For me, Bill, I started in business working for a bank, and I was extremely, extremely low paid, very low paid. But I learned so much in those first 6 years working at the bank. Towards the latter part of those 6 years, I was making decent money, but I was just horribly low paid at first, but I learned a mountain of information. And so I would recommend someone come to an event like this that you do, partner with someone like you, because if you can get with someone that doesn't mind teaching you a little bit and showing you the ropes, that helps. The RIA meetings and those things, those are pretty good too, or the meetups. But I recommend, because otherwise there's so much to learn. You can't sit down and have a meeting with someone for an hour and then everything you need to know to get it going. Right. So that would be the first thing. That way they have a base for them to learn from. And then the other thing I would say is get out and start talking to people, because as you get out and start talking, the wide range of investors have an innate ability to come up with deals some kind of way. Oh, this was my cousin's neighbor that had this situation. This was my friend such and such that had this situation, and they find deals that way. Once they start putting it out there, they start finding that. But then the last part of that is develop a system, and that system needs to be a business system where they have whatever type of leads they're going to get, whether it's notices of default or tax sales or probate leads or whatever type of distressed property. It could be substandard properties in a certain city that they're going to get the list of substandard properties from that city. They get those leads and they consistently market to them until they have a willing seller.
When people ask me to get started, and just based on my experience, people need three things. You have to have a coach or a mentor or a team leader or somebody who's directing you in anything in life. It could be in religious, it'd be a pastor or a priest or rabbi. Second, I think you have to have a system or a book or process or method that you operate in every day. And third, I think you have to have a group, colleagues, fellow students, fellow team members that push you, you push each other, help each other. And I always look for those three things. So when people come to me and say, I'm thinking of joining this program, I just quickly ask them about those three. And if they have that, say, yeah, I would give that a try. I've had people in the past, I recommended to go to, what's his name? I'm so embarrassed. LAREIC. He used to have a monthly meeting.
Lloyd Siegel.
Lloyd Siegel. He used to have a meeting at the Olympic Collection once a month. Of course, with COVID, that's been interrupted. I know Sam Sadat has Sam's Club, which I think is good. There's Prosperity Through Real Estate Wednesdays at noon that offers some visibility. Where would you recommend somebody who's looking to get started? I think you can spend a little bit of money, at least, certainly some time. Where would you recommend somebody get started in the process? Is there any particular program that you have been involved with that you can recommend and say they've had good outcomes consistently?
I'm familiar with all of those meetings that you just mentioned. Sam and Lloyd have been to their meetings numerous times. There's several RIAs that I've also gone to. There's another group that's not RIA. I think it's Phoebe, For Investors, By Investors. And then also meetups that I've seen. Robert Hall and Associates here up in Glendale, they do meetings. All of those organizations are a great way to start becoming familiar and start meeting other people. Because one of the things that is good, I think, Bill, you're probably one of the best at this, that I've seen as a real estate agent, is having a mindset of let's work together, not let's work against each other. And that just because you have a deal doesn't mean it takes a deal out of my pocket, right? And so getting with a group where or meeting people where you can share ideas, help each other, learn from each other, maybe even partner up if necessary, is a good idea, especially for folks that are new to get things started.
Last night, I jumped in on the LA South RIA that Melissa mentions and listened to Anthony Walker talk about multifamily. Man, what a fountain of information that was. That is awesome. One sharp cat. I know he's done a lot of business for a long time. I've never met him. I saw him on the video for the first time. But wow, is he sharp and gave some really good insight in the market and the process.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So look, I've chatted a bit. You have on the call here, Kevin has been in real estate in the industry for a long time. He touches a lot of people. He's familiar with different organizations and such. Here's a chance to ask a pro a question. For those of you who are newer, looking for
so how do we buy his book?
Buy his book, going to Amazon.
Yeah, ideas are always good. All right.
Yeah.
Amazon.
I'm sure he would say the book is a great place to start. I'll put the book in the chat box as well. But if you go to Amazon and I just did it. If you just type in Kevin Sayles, Sayles, and I put the word probate and it popped up right away. But I'll put the link in the meeting for that book. And again, I don't know how much business it takes to get Kevin to sign it, but give him a bunch of title orders too, and then maybe he'll agree to sign the book. I don't know how many it takes because I thought I gave him a lot of business, but I guess not enough to get a signed copy.
I'll let you sign it for him.
I want to make sure people understand what this book is about. In this book, I don't tell you how to evaluate a property. I don't tell you how to make sure the deal is going to make money. I don't talk about how to find them. I don't talk about how to flip them or where to get them. It's all 100% about you have a contract, you want to close, but there's some limiting factor that prevents you from doing a regular assignment, because that would be the number one. So how to do it when the lender the current lender on the property, maybe it's a short sale and they won't allow you to change the buyer, or it's an REO, they won't allow you to change the buyer. How to do it when maybe you're short on money in the middle of the escrow, you don't have enough money, you got to bring in a partner. How do we properly close and get that achieved? And so I go over.
It's a quiver. It's a quiver I could use someday, right?
Absolutely,
Like
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks.
good question. Thank you. Other questions?
Yes, this is Anders. I have a question about the assigning and double escrow. I've heard both. People prefer one or the other, and double escrow, some prefer because it's more transparable, more open. You scare away sellers, specifically like off-market sellers, and when they see that it's being assigned, they kind of get scared and pull out. And then there is the other side of assigning that you don't have any stake in it, so to say, because if you have double escrow, you kind of need to come up with some money for that. So you prefer assigning? Did I understand you right on that? If
the buyer, party B, who writes the contract with party A, the seller, if they're going to close two different escrows, meaning the property goes from party A to party B, that's the first escrow, and then from party B to party C, and they are not bringing in their own money, that's where you can have a lot of problems.
Right.
That's where you can have a lot of problems, because now you're using party C's money to close a transaction. And just think about how this sounds to a jury of regular people. I'm the seller, and when you're doing the deal, everything sounds great to the seller. But later, when they see that you made money off of them, they don't like it. So, and I'm going to give you just about how it was explained in front of this jury. So, oh, poor seller, I thought you were buying it for 110, and that was the value. That's what you told me it was worth. And then you turned around and sold it to somebody else for 150, and you didn't even bring any money into the escrow. In fact, you had no vested interest in the deal. He sent his money. That money should have come directly to me, not to you. Why do you get to make $50,000 off of me for doing quote unquote nothing, right? And when you have a jury of 10 or I guess it's 12 people that don't know real estate and don't know anything about it, it does not look good. It does not look good at all. And I could tell you numerous horror stories of dealing with those things. It's very problematic. Now, if party B is closing, I don't even call that a double escrow. I call that wholetailing, right? It's not even wholesaling. They buy it and then they sell it again. There's nothing wrong with me buying a property and then selling it right away. There's nothing wrong with that. I can buy it today and realize, what? I planned on keeping this till I retire, but now I changed my mind and I want to sell it. There's no problem with that. So if party B is bringing their own funds to close, whether it's transactional funding, hard money loan, cash, whatever that may be, no problem. It's when party B has no funds to close that it becomes a problem. And that's what a true double escrow is. That becomes a problem. In California, I would not want to be on that side of that litigation.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's where these other methods of closing come into play to still allow you to close, because like you said, sometimes the seller doesn't want you to assign. That's where all these other techniques come into play.
I'll share with you guys, I had a client who had a property, got it locked up. I helped him find a place to sell it to make his profit, but he didn't have the money. And we were working on some hard money lenders that I know. And the buyer of the property said, well, I know a great funding source. It wasn't their company, it was a friend of his. And so they closed with the money from this, and they charged him money on the closing statement. He paid $12,000 for about $320,000 loan for one day. But there's money available. It cut into his profit. He still made $100,000. So it cut into his profit. He made only 112. So one of the things I always tell people is don't get greedy, do things the right way. And what Kevin's saying is by using the C buyer's money is the wrong way. There is a limited amount of money. If you have a wholesale deal lined up, come see me if you can't find it. I'll find you. There's people in this call who will lend you the money. Yeah. They won't, I will. or I'll find you somebody if I don't have the money in my pocket that day. But don't get greedy about it. That's the mistake people make, is they get greedy and then the seller finds out and they get pissed. And karma is a real bitch sometimes. So good
Bill,
question.
I gotta share something else. You know, one of the things that I always say is follow the big money, right? Bank of America or any bank, fill it in with any bank or any financial institution. They would never lend or put money out on a transaction without getting title insurance, without having escrow involved, without having a regular transaction, a contract, all that.
Yeah.
And yet I see people that are like, oh yeah, I got this deal. I gave the seller 25 grand. We had no real estate contract. Now, side note, California law says the sale of real property must be evidenced in writing. So that means you have to have a contract. So they have no real estate contract. They gave the party the money, and it violates Civil Code 1695, which says if you're in default, there's all these other rules. So I always say follow the big money. You want to be in title. It's a very big thing when it comes to our title insurance. You want to be a bona fide purchaser, and the mindset of bona fide purchaser is like this: I'm walking down the street, I see a car for sale, and I go, I want to buy it. I'm walking down the street, I see a house for sale, and I say, oh, I want to buy that. I'm a bona fide purchaser. I don't have any inside dealings. I'm not related to the seller. I don't have any inside information. There's no extra thing. I'm just a person who found a property for sale and bought it. And that doesn't mean, so it doesn't mean that if I door knock them because they're in default, I'm still a bona fide purchaser if I do that. It doesn't mean I'm not. What I'm saying is if you do your contract properly, have escrow, have title, and all those things, you have the bona fide purchaser protections in place, which can protect you under the law. There's a lot of details and background on that. I don't know that we have time today on that, but it's a crucial key. The people that I've seen get burned the most or hurt the most is that, yeah, it was late. We signed this deed. I gave him the money and I took over the property. And they do that and record it, and then they have the most problems. So I always say, follow the big money. Normal people buy property, they have escrow, title, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you got to pay an escrow fee. Yes, you got to pay for title insurance. Yes, it's going to cost you some money. Like Bill, like you said, it's going to eat into your profits, but you have huge protections under the law because of that.
Great. I think you're 100% right. Try to follow the big players. They do those things for a reason, and at least what the reason is. That's very good advice. Good.
Yeah, I see oftentimes, this is another thing that I've seen where, let's say I'm buying a property, Bill, and I'm short on cash. And so I call you and I always call this one, if it walks like a duck, call it a duck. If you give me money to help me with the purchase, what is that? That's a loan. You gave me money. That's a loan. But I see people that are borrowing money, and instead of recording a deed of trust as a loan, they deed the property to that person or deed partial interest. That's totally different. And it creates different challenges. It creates different issues. It creates totally different things. So again, I say follow the big money. When Bank of America gives me a loan, they record a deed of trust on the property. So if you're bringing in a business partner and he's giving you money and you want to have all the controlling interest, you just want him to be a money partner, do it as a loan. Don't do it as him being on the deed and all that. It just creates challenges.
Very good. We have a question from Abraham Santana. Does it depend on how you frame it? What if you never say that's what it's worth? Isn't a verbiage in the CAR that allows assignment? So I can answer. There is an addendum in the California Association of Realtor form that you can use to make a contract assignable and what terms it's assignable. The answer is yes. What if you never say what it's worth? The challenge if you're a real estate agent is not what necessarily just what you say, it is also what can be implied. And if I show up at your house and I hand you a business card and I tell you I'm an agent and I'm negotiating a contract on your property, there's a certain implied agency that you can rely on and say, well, I thought you were helping me. I didn't realize you're working against me. And so as a real estate agent, you be very clear what your role is and what you're doing to protect the non-customers and what you're doing to protect the customers. And if you have questions on that, see me offline. That's going to get a little detailed. But that's different than if you're an investor wholesaler where you have no obligation to the sell of the property. You're not pretending to, you don't have one. Don't lie about it. Don't lie and say that you are. Say, I'm willing to pay a fair price. I can close quickly. And that's really why you're there and why they would work with you. So Kevin, anything you want to add on to that? I just said as far as the how do you frame it and
No, that was well said, Bill. I would say this: if you are a real estate agent, you should be extremely careful if you're trying to wholesale, because it's so easy for that person to drag you into court later and say, I thought he was representing, he told me he was an agent. Isn't he supposed to have my best interest in mind? And regardless of the idiosyncrasies of the law, put a jury of 10 people up there and let them decide and see what happens. They're not going to know. They're going to say, yeah, he's an agent. He's supposed to get you the best price, not find someone who wants to buy it and he makes 10 grand off of that. It's not the way it works. But that's why they have net listings. That's why, like you suggested, you represent the buyer. So I address that in the book as well. But yeah, be very, very careful if you're an agent.
very good. Good. Other questions for Kevin Sales?
Yeah, Kevin? Or Bill?
Yeah, Kevin?
If you're not a
Gary
licensed
Perot.
agent- Oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
hold on now. I'm held on. Let's go. Gary Perro, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I do some wholesaling, but more often I work with wholesalers and helping them create seller finance deals. So I help wholesalers close more deals, and I even go back with their old leads, and I go through their old leads and I make full price offers with terms, and that creates a note. So when you're buying something with seller financing, does that create any complications in terms of if you're going to hold it versus wholesaling?
No, it's not a complication. If you're doing seller financing, you work with the right escrow company. They will create the documents for you. You get title insurance as the buyer. You have seller financing. It's a great way to close a transaction. And many people don't know how to do it. It's very, very simple. To me, it doesn't add any complication. It's very, very straightforward. So that's a piece of cake. And then aftermarket for that. Like sometimes the seller, I had a guy that called me just the other day. He's a broker. One of his agents, their father or something, or grandfather sold the property with seller financing. And now after umpteen years, they're like, they just want to be cashed out. Can someone buy this note? So that creates that whole market of selling notes. So definitely there's no problem with seller financing. It's a great way to deal with properties. And it's a great way to buy properties because a lot of times you can create more favorable financing, because think about it, does Bank of America have a loan? I just keep saying Bank of America. I'm just fill that in with any bank. Does any bank have a loan where you can borrow the money and have no payments for a year? I mean, short of maybe a bridge loan or certain types of construction, they don't. It's not going to happen. When you're doing seller financing, you might be like, look, you're walking away with 75 grand now. Your other profit, we're going to get you, but we need some time. Can we not make any payments for a while? We'll still pay interest, but no payments due. You have so much flexibility when you're dealing with private money, hard money, or seller financing that it just opens up the world of possibilities.
Yeah, I find that you can make a lot more money if you just are a little bit patient and you don't demand it all up front. So, if you're making payments on the property, a lot of times somebody's going to come up with a reason they get greedy and they want a bunch of money all at once, and that's a great way to negotiate a discount. So there's a ton of ways to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go back to what I said earlier. I just say do everything the right way. Make sure the proper the escrow is creating the proper documentation. Make sure the proper documentation is recorded, because I've seen where people do some seller financing stuff kind of on the side, or they don't record this. And when they come to me with a problem, I go, well, why wasn't the deed of trust recorded? Oh, well, or why didn't you record the deed? Why didn't you do it as a sale and carry back? Oh, well, we did, and so they come into all kinds of challenges because they don't do things the right way. So just do the paperwork the right way, make sure it's done properly, make sure your escrow and your title company handle that part the right way. And it's a very, very great option.
Right.
I'm shocked there aren't more seller financing deals done in my entire career. So many would make sense, and maybe it's lack of training on our part of salespeople, or I'm not really sure what, but to me, it just seems like a lot more should be done. I know, Abraham, you had another question you wanted to ask?
Yeah, this is probably not a big question, but I was under the impression that if you're making a profit on a piece of property from assigning it, that you have no equity of your own in the deal, that you can't take that commission unless you are an agent, a licensed agent. It's some form of earning money on a deal unlicensed.
No, like I said, the futures market and and you also mentioned earlier about not having the intent. It's an interesting argument. I'm not an attorney. I don't profess to be. I don't give people legal advice either.
No,
But it's an
what's
interesting
the law in California?
What was that?
Well, I can
What
answer
is the
that
law
question.
in California?
Actually, I can answer the question in California, but in general, if you think about it, when you're signing the contract, you're the principal. As the
Exactly.
principal, you can sell the right to your property and collect profit on it as the principal. You're not acting as a third party when you get, we call it an assignment fee, but it's not a fee earned for somebody else. It's the way you're getting paid on selling the interest in your property.
So
So
you
you
have
can
an
sell-
equitable interest and you don't need a real estate license to do it.
It should be, as the principal, you do not need to
Okay.
to get paid for the profits of your property. One way you get profit from your property is through the assignment fee. Yeah. That's what. But now if you're not a principal, it's different.
What you're selling with that assignment is the contract gives me a right, and I'm selling that right. That
Correct.
right has value. I'm selling that right. I have the right to buy a property at X amount of dollars based on the contract.
Right.
And what I'm selling is that right that I have in that
Correct.
contract. And to say, going back to what you said in the beginning, is that the entire futures market is based on that. You know, remember they talk about pork bellies, the price has gone up. They talk about the price of orange juice or oil. People buy those futures contracts with no intent to buy the oil, with no intent to buy the, what am I do with, 30,000 gallons of orange juice? I'm not looking to buy the orange juice, but I know that the right to buy it has a value. So what I want is that right. And what I sell later is right. Now, Tropicana buys it with the desire to buy the orange juice. I'm just buying it with the desire to make money because it's low price now, make a gain when I sell it for a higher price.
Yeah, but that's already a very supervised market.
Yeah. And real estate is not. And that's where, to your point, there may be some laws that come out, but it'll be interesting to see how this gets argued. I think it's going to be important for investors like us to have some influence there, because it could very easily, the way our legislature is, especially here in California, it's very easy for them not to think about it in the right way and not to think about, hey, there's other markets that this happens, or, all these other commodities, right? Why can't the same thing be done with real estate? And so it's important that we have a voice in there. So I have not heard that there was, legislature working on this, but if there is, we all should be writing our representatives for sure.
Here's where where people get tripped up.
Okay.
To answer your question, Avram. Where people get tripped up is in the basic purchase agreement form, it says it's not assignable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you enter in a contract without an assignment addendum, if you're talking about a regular real estate transaction contract, a residential purchase agreement, and you don't need the addendum, and your intent is never to close but to sign it, then you entered into a contract under false pretense. However, if you enter the contract on the property with, well, I might buy it for myself, I also might sell it and wholesale it, right? Either way is fine for me, if that's really your intention. So you have to prove that you had that intention. But if you enter a contract deliberately under deceptive practices, it's called fraud, and then you're open to all kinds of problems. On a wholesale deal where there's no residential purchase contract involved, that language isn't necessarily there. That's why investors go to different programs and get contracts for those programs. But you can use the RPA form as long as a buyer, you could buy the property. Maybe you get a hard money loan, somebody eventually did not pay money, you could close, but instead you decide to sell it to somebody else and make a better profit. That's your option.
What is that document called?
Well, there's a residential purchase agreement, it's a standard contract. In there, it says not assignable. And then if you want to add an addendum, there's an assignment addendum that allows you to sign it. So if you make an offer with that addendum that's saying I plan to assign it.
Right. What's it called?
I forget. Addendum.
Do you know the name of it?
I just put in the zip form as addendum and assignment, and it pops up. I can't remember the name of it, but it's pretty simple. Rama, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I just want to discuss with Kevin and all of you. Kevin is talking about Chicago Board of Trade. Incidentally, I worked there. The point is that is options and futures, and that is only for price discovery mechanism. In that Chicago Board of Trade, it is a world commodity prices we will decide. But there is no exchange of material. It is only price discovery mechanism.
Okay.
I hope Kevin says same thing. He is also telling same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's using it as an example. I don't think he was making it a legal case for it. I think he was just using it as a way to illustrate the point.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, good. Other questions for Kevin while we have him here?
Yeah,
Gary.
So Kevin, if you put if you sign a contract, instead of making it assignable, if you actually say, you know, me or this entity, and that entity is something that can be easily transferred like a land trust, does that simplify things?
Not land trust. So I've worked for 4 title companies in my 22 years, specifically in title insurance. And most title companies, we scrutinize a lot the land trust. Here's the reason why. The land trust you're probably referring to, or that most investors learn about, you can change the beneficiaries, the trustors, and all that in there very easily. The reason why that's a problem is if we give title insurance to an entity and then you're changing who those owners are, then our insurance is kind of insuring all these, who knows who we're insuring. That's not a good thing. We don't want that as a title company. So there are certain, like when we insure land trusts for athletes, public figures, actors, those we never have a problem with. Those are being utilized to protect someone's identity, to keep their name out of the public record. But the land trust that I've seen most investors bring is one where they intend to change the name. That is not good. If you were going to do something like that, the preferred method in California from a title company perspective would be utilizing an entity, and you can sell the entity. So if I have ABC Corporation or XYZ LLC, XYZ LLC can buy that. And if XYZ LLC changes their ownership, so be it, they change their ownership, but it's still the same entity. It's still the same recognized entity that's been filed with the state of California that has been registered.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So as we wrap up here real quick, thank you for all those. First off, thank you to Kevin for being on our call today and sharing your wisdom. You know, Kevin, people will argue with me about him as a title rep when we're negotiating. And my rep knows title probate really well. And I'll say, no. There's only one title rep who gives the continuing ed classes for attorneys at Superior Court in Los Angeles. The last couple of years, I've seen him do it. It's Kevin Sales. The guy is an expert. Okay. So beyond a doubt, you guys had a chance to hear from an expert today. He has a book on probate that's on Amazon. He has another one we talked about today, Investing Wholesale. He's a title representative for lawyers, title insurance company, and can help you with all that. So Kevin, thank you so much. If somebody wanted to learn more about I know you have a coaching thing on probate and in general, how would somebody reach you to get more Kevin love? Not Kevin love, but more Kevin Sales love.
You can reach out to me. I have a website, kevinsales.com. My last name is spelled Sayles. You can email me, kevin@kevinsales.com, and reach me. They can contact you. You always know how to reach me, Bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably the easiest way to reach out.
The problem is it comes from me, you expect it to be another title order, so I don't want to get you any mistaken impressions. So, well, look, thank you so much. It's great having you.
No problem.
Couple other resources I want to add on here. My friend Alan Gordon is on the call today. Alan is a friend of mine who I've known for a while, set out about a year and a half ago to start investing in real estate and decided he wanted to do it out of state. And as he mentioned on the call, he's done it in Missouri. I think he's being a little modest. He's already, I think, bought 2 or he's in process with his 3rd investment property there. Really sharp guy, really smart, learned a lot, did his homework. More importantly, has a great wife who hope she doesn't yell at me next time I see her. Put the plug in for her with Betsy. But they did a great job. And so for those of you who want to learn, how do I get started and get my first investment property? Alan's done it and done it recently, can show you that. So I'm going to put in the chat box. He's generously offered, if you're interested, you can click on that and set an appointment with him at no cost. He does not charge for coaching or consulting.
Well, thank you.
He's a great guy. He might want to offer to work with you on an investment or help you with it. So anyhow, you're welcome, Alan. And that's in the chat box, calendly.com/invest out of state /30 minutes with Alan Gordon, number one. Number two, on the call is one of my good friends and colleagues, Annabelle Pacheco. Annabelle, in addition to being a superstar real estate agent, hosts a call every Wednesday at 2:00 on multifamily properties and investing out of state as well. That's an Eventbrite we do every Wednesday at 2:00, and I put into the chat box as well the link there, and I'll put that in the YouTube. For those you get the replay, you'll see that there as well. And then on Thursday, I do every week at 4:00 p.m. Pacific time, Probate Weekly, probateweekly.com to sign up for that. Love to have you participate. We do this call, real estate investing zoom.com, every Tuesday at 3. If you're registered through Eventbrite, we'll send you out the invite every week. We'll also send you a link to the YouTube after the call. If you like that, please thumbs up it, put comments in there, engage there. YouTube is really driving a lot of the good future of this call. So that's all I have for this week. We'll have another guest and more content next week. Hope to see you guys. Gary Payroll, also Professor Cashflow, helps with notes and self-financing. He really is an expert in the subject. Really, literally was a rocket scientist, smart guy, and definitely worth your time to get to meet as well. Thank you all those who participated with questions. Again, thank you, Kevin. See you guys. Call, text, or email if I can help you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.